Hey guys, I'm Aleister,
And I'm Alseia.
and this is the Absurdium podcast.
Welcome, welcome! This is our 6th episode.
Yep.
Can you imagine, guys? 6th episode. We are thrilled.
Yep. Big number 6. That's one more than 5.
It's more. I feel like any new episode is more than the previous number. So that's
Yep.
how it goes.
That's how time works. And numbers and math.
We had a whole conversation about math today.
Oh yeah, that was a crazy
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, we went in a rabbit hole of Instagram reel showing us like what is wrong with this math something, and we just went off on the whole tangent of what are the rules, what are the
Yeah, can we
order of-
prove the equations on the meme?
and we knew it was going to be wrong because the caption literally said what's wrong with this, so it obviously was faulty.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to find out what was faulty and
Right.
at what point the faultiness was at fault.
Yeah. And it's my theory that it was wrong on purpose to generate clicks.
Well, yeah, of
So-
course, and then there was an odd couple of comments where they found something that we didn't find, and it was like, are we silly?
Yeah.
Are
it
we
was,
missing something?
Like can't divide by 0 and there
Yeah, but there was no zeros. There was no division by 0.
Yeah, it was all multiplication. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it was really fascinating.
Yeah, that was a strange one.
I suppose it's not necessarily that people are not calculating things correctly. I think it's a lot of the times people not paying enough attention to the details.
Yeah, that's
So
almost
what
certainly.
they see might be correct if it was how they saw it and not how it was originally
Yep.
written. But what they see, they think is correct, and then they write in a comment, and then it's not always what they see is not always correct. We had a whole episode on perception, so go check it out.
Yeah.
You will see that we are actually quite a faulty organisms. Oh my god, and we can perceive things incorrectly.
Right. It's interesting actually, back when I was in school, that was kind of my biggest weakness with math. Especially with like pop quizzes or like the teacher calling on you to answer a question or something. Like I would look at it, I would be like, "Oh, I know this." And I'd like misread something somewhere, but I was super confident about it.
Yeah,
And then
or
I'd say it out
missed
loud.
like a negative sign.
Yeah.
Or mix and match, or didn't do a calculation just correctly enough, and you like suddenly ended up with like a fraction, and you're like, I knew for a fact there was not supposed to be a fraction, and like,
Right,
it's
yeah.
supposed to be a whole number, but then I ended up with a fraction, and it just doesn't make sense. And how did that work? Yeah.
Yeah, you make a little assumption wrong and then kind
Or
of
not
just
even
make
assumption,
a fool.
you just
or-
calculated it wrong. How did you ever calculate things? Did you use paper, calculator? Did you calculate it in your mind?
So, I did all three. Some of it was like the way they taught us. Like they taught us long division. I'm old enough that I learned long division, and obviously multiplication, carry the zero.
What's that division?
Long division is like the whole writing out every bit of it with like, what is it? You got the number, and then you got the weird thing that goes up, and then the other number.
Oh,
right side of
okay, I
it.
know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, and then you carry
I
the
learned
numbers.
the same
Not
way. Yeah, I learned
Yeah.
the same thing.
right. I don't know how they learn it now, but I'm pretty sure it's different.
I'm
So
sure it is.
yeah, Common Core and all that.
I don't know. Maybe I'll check in with my brother and see how he divides things. He uses calculator. That's the thing. They don't have a way to divide it on paper.
Really?
They just use calculators.
I mean, that kind of makes sense. We're at a point in time where it's like you're never not going to have a calculator when you need to do math. So,
I feel like it's not always about
you're right.
being on getting the right answer. I think it's also sharpening your mind.
Yeah, it's going through the steps to get there helps you form the logic and understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Which it's important.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. So,
I feel like that's what I'm a little bit upset about, is that they use calculators so easily without actually learning how to do things and what are the steps and how to properly calculate and how to logically figure things out. Like draw patterns from equations and, put them together and be like, oh, well, if this is this and then, but logically it's this. So if I do this, it will make sense. I
They're a
mean,
little too results oriented
I'm
now.
very like pattern. I can see patterns in things that they might have or might not have patterns, but in my mind, I create patterns.
Right.
So it makes it easier to, calculate things.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah. But oh well. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Anyways, that was quite the tangent for an intro.
I mean math. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's not the topic of our conversation today. I hope you haven't clicked out yet, because the conversation is not about math. I mean, unless you want to, please leave a comment, then we can talk about math.
We could absolutely do one about math,
I don't
especially
know
like
if we
weird
can-
math.
I don't know if we can stretch it out to an hour and a
Yeah.
half, but I'm sure we can include geometry next to it.
I mean, you could call it a weird science episode, and that could just be one of the
I
things.
think we can do weird maths.
Yeah.
Because weird science will encompass too much. I don't think we can manage
That's fair.
fit it all in 1 hour
Yeah.
and 20 minutes or however long the episodes we
Right.
usually have.
That's fair.
So,
Yeah.
Aleister,
Uh-huh.
tell me, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about genre, specifically literary genre.
Specifically, literally?
I think so, right?
I don't know. I mean,
That's what we agreed on. I thought was like in reference to books and whatnot.
no, I meant genre in general.
Oh boy.
It's okay. It's
Yeah.
all under the genre umbrella. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
If not, we can always search for it. I mean, our equipment is like right here. Mine is phone. His is computer. I mean, device.
Mm-hmm. It's a computer.
I don't work in tech.
Yeah. It runs Windows. That's a computer.
Yeah, it's a personal device. Thus PC.
Mm-hmm. Well, that would be PD technically.
What?
Personal.
Oh yeah. BOD. Bring your personal. Oh yeah, right. Personal computer. Well, that's what it is. PC. Sorry guys, I don't know my ABCs.
No, that's not true.
Alphabet is very hard. Harder than math.
Words are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a massive brain fart this morning, remember? Not this morning, afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was just like,
Yeah, she was properly broken for a minute. It was really funny.
for 10 minutes. It was really funny. I could not bring myself to say what I was thinking because my brain just short-circuited.
Yeah, our other coworker was about to call 911.
They're like, we need an ambulance. Our coworker is having a stroke. She cannot speak. But okay,
Yeah.
going back to the genres. What do you know? What have you learned? What have you searched? What have you come up with? I had coffee right before coming here.
That explains
So
things.
if I seem off the rails, you know why.
I should not have had the tea ready.
Listen, tea
Well.
and coffee is different.
Yeah, but there's caffeine in that too, right?
I drink that before going to bed.
Fair. I don't know if that means anything other than you have a tolerance.
Then why is coffee affecting me like this?
I don't know.
Coffee is
Delivery
just... you know what it is? It's the creamer.
method?
It's the sugar in it.
Yeah, that'll do it.
It's not the coffee. It's the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a fortune cookie from our lunch.
Fair.
Another one. And I had a bar. It's all sugar.
Yeah, she's on a sugar high.
And coffee. High.
That'll
I'm
do
just a high.
high on life.
Yeah, exactly.
There
I
we
don't need to be intoxicated or under substances to have fun.
Right. Not
I
wrong
also
with
don't need anything to be in a bad mood either. You know it.
that I do.
Nah.
So anyways, genre. I know a lot of things about genre. Probably not
tell.
as much as I, could know. Obviously, there's more to know. There's always more knowledge. But I know what genre is loosely defined as.
What is loosely defined as?
Genre is a form of communication through any medium using agreed upon conventions developed over time that categorize the communication itself.
Oh, I
think
read
that was
a
actually
different
pretty
thing.
messy. I kind of messed that one up a little.
A little bit. I've read
Yeah.
that genres, according to Google, our trusty source. Who else to trust if not Google?
Nobody.
Exactly.
Don't
So
trust anyone. Well, trust me. Trust her. Don't trust us. Don't trust anyone. Trust everyone.
Don't even trust yourself, because obviously perception is all Crap.
Oh, she
no.
almost said a bad
I
word.
almost slipped. Bull crap. Bull crap. Okay. I didn't have to repeat it 3 times. I'm so sorry. That was so aggressive. But oh my god, I
Oh,
should simmer down on coffee.
are you
I get.
okay?
I don't know. I don't know. Everything is so exciting. The video, the camera, the coffee, the tea. It's just so thrilling. Okay, I promise I'm fine. The definition of genre that I found on Google is a category of artistic compositions, as in music or literature, characterized by similarities in form, style, or subject matter.
Wow, that is way better than what I came up with. I
Yeah,
don't know where I even pulled mine
I
from.
don't know.
I think my brain just shut off for a minute there.
I mean, didn't you just copy paste it or did you rephrase it?
I rephrased it. I rewrote it. I wrote it
Oh.
all myself.
Oh,
My brain just didn't want to do it.
okay.
So,
You had your own brain fart.
maybe I needed some coffee.
You don't drink coffee though.
True.
Is it too bitter for you?
Yeah. There's multiple
Well,
reasons.
maybe you can start drinking more tea.
True. I should
It's
probably
also-
drink this
it's
tea
also
before it gets
good.
cold.
It was too hot for you before.
Yep, probably still is.
It's barely warm.
It's just right.
It's warm.
Mhm.
I drink scalding hot tea,
I don't know how
And-
she does it.
and I don't understand how someone cannot drink hot tea
Mm-hmm.
because as soon as it gets less hot, it's just not tolerable.
Right.
Like my pet peeve is lukewarm tea
Mm-hmm.
or warm tea. I despise it.
Which I can definitely understand. After it gets under like hot, it is not enjoyable anymore.
Unless you are specifically making iced tea,
But that's different.
but that's
than-
different.
yeah.
You choose the tea, you make it cold to begin with. It's just different process. Oh my god, tangents.
Mm-hmm.
Not even within the same realm of genre. Maybe we should not even talk about genre. Maybe we should spend an entire episode talking about tea.
We could.
I mean,
I mean,
no.
I know
already-
nothing about tea, so it would be entirely on you.
I don't think I know enough tea about about tea either. So I don't think I have enough information, and I'm totally unprepared. How about next episode? We can talk about beverages of choice. What do you think, guys?
We could definitely weasel it in, anyways.
Beverages,
Mm-hmm.
food.
Get that purple
Oh,
drink.
I guess I'm kind of hungry now. Lunch was sucked.
Oh yeah, you were disappointed in your lunch.
Yeah, I got sour and sweet chicken with fried rice, neither of which was good.
Mm. Did you ever end up getting anything else from the kitchen or anything?
No,
Wow. So you just ate a couple bites of that and just
and that was it.
wow.
Yeah, I know.
Holy crap.
Yeah, eating is not enjoyable today.
Mm.
The genre of today was, why am I here at work? I'm being unproductive. Slice of life. Yeah, that's the genre.
Yeah.
Slice of life.
There we go.
Everyday slice of life, unless it's an adventure.
Every day is an adventure.
Or comedy,
True.
which is not everyday genre.
Fair.
If you could define your life in 2 genres, what would it be? Leave a comment, let us know. I'm super interested in knowing.
Yeah.
I want my genre be rom-com.
Hmm.
Well, to be fair, I want it to be fantasy, but like we do not have magic or elves, so I probably will put it down and just say rom-com.
Yeah, as far as like realistic choices are concerned.
And I really don't want it to be sci-fi
Mhm.
because that implies too many things, and I don't want them to be
Yeah,
within close proximity to me.
that's fair. Mine.
Rom-com. I want
would
it
I-
to be rom-com. It's
Right.
not.
Yeah, I would kind of want mine to be similar, just because that seems like, as far as the realistic choices go, probably one of the more positive ones.
Also rom-com?
Yeah, for lack of a better choice.
Well, you can just be comedy
Yeah,
or adventure and comedy.
I guess an adventure comedy with a romance subplot.
I suppose there's so many genres and subgenres.
Mm-hmm. There really are.
I mean, just going over the research that we did, which I did like 5 minutes of. So I'm basing it all on what I watch and what I read. So do not cite me or go
Right.
off whatever I know. He did more research than I did. So Alistair here is more responsible than I ever will be. But,
Hey, don't sell yourself too short.
well,
Hmm.
I am too. What's the word I would say? Anyways, if when I remember, I'll continue on that thought. But going past that, there are so many genres that could be. There's a detective. I don't want to be part of the detective in my life. There's thriller.
True.
There's drama. There's adventure. There is subgenre of like romance, and then comedy, and then subgenre of the two rom-com. It's its own genre right now. It's a
It really
very
is.
like niche thing.
It's one of the most popular genres from what I've seen.
Oddly, I actually personally do not like to watch rom-coms.
No. Interesting.
Nope. It's one of my least favorite genres. It's because I usually they make a comedy bit at expense of someone.
Yeah, that is
So I
true.
experience like massive secondhand embarrassment,
That's fair.
and I don't like that. If I'm watching something, I don't want to feel embarrassed. I want to enjoy the show
Mm-hmm.
or the movie or
Or the book or whatever it is. Yeah.
book or whatever I'm really
That's fair.
consuming.
I don't really go out of my way to watch rom-coms either, to be fair. So, yeah, I kind of get it. Similar reasoning.
I wonder what would be the movie that is purely romantic without comedy bit. I think I know my answer. My favorite movie is Pride and Prejudice. That is romantic. There's no comedy at all. Maybe drama. Maybe a little bit of drama too.
I don't really watch just strict romance.
I wonder why.
I mean, it's not really my cup of tea.
True. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like even the romantic comedy that I've watched, like I can count them on one hand probably, and most of them I can't remember the name of even. So, like the only one that really comes to mind is Silver Linings Playbook.
Funnily enough, I started, never finished.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That movie, I feel like their relationship dynamic was a wee bit unhealthy. So,
Well, weren't they all both struggling with mental health?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that might have been the deal. Which I guess maybe it's not unhealthy per se. I don't know, it's been like 10 years since I've seen it, so.
It's been 10 years since it came out?
Oh, it's been out for longer than that.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm gonna be looking up when.
God, I want to say that was like a
I don't think it was that long.
8?
So.
Am I wrong about that? No, that movie's old. I think we had that on VHS.
No!
I'm pretty sure we did.
2012.
So that's 12 years ago, yeah?
Oh no.
Wow.
It's been 12 years? Oh, that is just tragic.
That's a long time.
Oh, it gives it perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But there are 738,000 reviews in it.
That's a lot. It's a
on
popular movie.
IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
And the rating is 7.7 out of 10, which is decently high rating.
It is. It's a little lower than I'd expect, given how many people I know of it, or like enjoyed it. But fair enough.
To be fair, I've never actually like fully committed to watching it, so.
Right. Fair. I'm not a big enough fan that I'm gonna say you should watch it or anything like that. I'm not gonna recommend it. If you want to, go for it. If you don't.
I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is so young in it.
Yeah, for sure.
Not that she's not young now, but
But
12 years ago, whole 12 years ago. How old were we? Do not say it out loud, but we were. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, that's a long time.
What the heck? Oh my god, we were babies.
Pretty much.
Well, not really, but kind of.
Yeah.
I don't want to say how old I am.
Fair.
I don't want to face reality of my age. Now my mood is totally drama. But yeah, I mean, Then there's slice of life. I don't think slice of life is often used in relation to movies specifically. I feel like it's a very anime kind of genre.
Yeah, it's not really used in a Western context much at all, really.
Yeah,
So
which I feel like it's such a useful.
I would say so.
I think it's a great genre.
Hmm.
Slice of life.
Yeah. I mean, would you would you consider like, young adult, teenage, like high school oriented movies to be slice of life?
Yeah, slice of life, maybe romance. Usually, how it's done, it's never just one genre.
Right. There's always a
Nothing can be
combination.
just one. I mean, okay, maybe satire.
Hmm.
Satire is a very loaded genre of its own because it
Yeah.
includes comedy, drama, a little bit of like
Right. Even satire itself is a collection of
yeah, it's a
subgenres.
collection of things. But if we're talking about genre like romance, it implies a very specific thing. But no movie is just romance.
Right. There's always something else going on.
Like even the Pride and Prejudice that I'm talking about, it's romance and drama
Hmm.
because a lot of emotional things are happening,
Right.
which is dramatic. Actually, you know what? Did you search what defines drama genre?
I might have had it in here somewhere.
Maybe
I don't
while
recall.
you're looking, because I will be looking at it too, because I don't know what it specifically defines
Hmm.
and how it's defined. So basically, it says in film and television, drama is a category of or genre of narrative fiction or semi-fiction intended to be more serious than humorous in tone. So yeah,
Interesting.
basically, I feel like anything that's not comedy, you can call drama.
Nearly. Yeah.
Almost everything.
It's rather vague.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I would actually expected it to be a little bit more specific than just
Yeah, you would think.
anything.
Like, you would think being called drama would imply there's some level of drama to it. Which I guess every movie has a level of dramaticism, but
Yeah, well, I suppose you cannot call horror movies drama
right, they're
because
dramatic, but they're
obviously
not dramas. Yeah,
it's not the drama. I suppose it's anything but adventure. Well, even adventure can be emotionally. I think my own personal definition of drama would be a s- uh, story, either movie or book, that includes any emotional infliction other than romance and comedy, that does not include like horror or thriller or things like that.
Right.
Because thriller evokes very anxious feelings.
Yeah, you're
That's
gonna
the whole
be.
that's the whole purpose of thriller. It makes you feel the anxiety, the adrenaline with the character.
Yeah, you're gonna be at the edge of your seat the
Yeah,
whole
you'll be
time.
like, okay, oh my god, what's happening? Ah,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
right? Horror is just the
Yeah.
entire time. I personally, I hate horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot sleep afterwards. I'm such a baby about it.
Right. Yeah. I've never really been a fan of horror either, to be fair.
Just hard to sleep.
Yeah, especially when I was a kid and actually still afraid of the dark and all that. Like,
Wait, I'm still afraid of the dark. I'm
fair.
not even kidding. I'm still afraid of the dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
That's why I cannot watch horror movies, because I'm still afraid of the dark.
Huh. I
But
can be at times. It depends on the situation.
see, that's probably
Yeah.
when you watch a horror movie or something scary and then you suddenly become afraid of the dark.
Well, it's more so like where I am. So, like, say I'm here and all the lights are off.
Yeah.
I can walk around and be just fine. I can stare at my closet all night just fine. I don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But if I'm like staying at a relative's who lives out in the boonies
Mm-hmm.
and you look out the window and all you see is dark forest and whatnot, that irks me. And like,
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, that even out there irks me, but being inside the house, the closet will scare me in that situation, whereas here it won't. So maybe
okay.
scared maybe isn't the right term, but like I won't
Spook you.
stare at it while I'm sleeping.
Yeah, there's something to say that if you stare into the darkness for too long, the darkness will look at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well, they actually say the abyss. If you look into abyss long enough, the abyss will look at you.
right.
But I'm substituting abyss with darkness because
Yeah, it's basically if you're looking, you're kind of inviting something
Yeah.
to come up.
so let's just
Yeah.
ignore the darkness in our closet.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
It's the thing. It's the same thing. I don't look out of my window and stare too long because
Mm-hmm.
there's someone definitely staring at me.
Right, yeah.
Whether it's a squirrel or a bird or I don't know.
Some living creature is watching you.
Yeah.
And that's enough to be kind of spooky in its own right.
Yeah. Because if one thing is watching you, there's definitely something else.
Yeah.
Also, it doesn't help that my windows are directly across, not super close, but across from other windows.
Yeah.
And it's close enough where you can look into each other's
Right.
places.
That makes sense.
And I don't have like blackout curtains. I have like tulle white see-through curtains.
Right.
So
Yeah, you can't really be.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to have any privacy at that point, even if you're trying.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Luckily for me, I don't think a lot of people are creepos who
Fair.
look in. So yeah, genres are a fascinating thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, slice of life. Slice of life is usually coming in. Do you like while it's talking about just exactly what it says, slice of someone's life,
Yeah,
high
exactly.
school or
Mm-hmm.
just work or college. Rarely work because usually it's.
Yeah,
But even then, it's still.
It's primarily like teen oriented, so high school and whatnot. But there's been I've seen a couple animes that are either like college or work life for sure. So
I think it's just something that's not. It's not too anxiety inducing.
right, yeah, it's kind of a nice,
it's
happy,
basically-
safe
Well,
story.
almost happy. There's
Yeah.
still gonna be some drama because it's about
Yeah,
humans.
a story's got to have some stakes to it.
Yeah,
to be
so it's
interesting.
not just, but it's usually like day-to-day life, day-to-day walking
Yeah.
around, doing things, which is enjoyable to watch because sometimes you want to get out of your own day-to-day to look at someone else day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds boring, but it's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's a form of escapism. So, hey, that would be a fun topic on its own, actually. Escapism,
Oh boy,
or at least a subtopic or something.
I suppose yeah, because well, any movie or anything that we do that is not benefiting our life is escapism.
It is, yeah, yeah. If you're trying to,
So any music you listen to, movies you watch,
Books you
sports game,
read.
books you read,
yeah,
everything that you do that is not educational in value or in any way that is benefiting your life,
right,
like a self-development book, that's an escapism.
yeah,
That's you're literally avoiding your life
yeah. You're pulling yourself out of reality
and putting in some other reality, whether it's whatever medium you choose.
Yeah. Which, to be clear, nothing wrong with that.
No,
We're not
no,
saying
no,
it's
no,
a bad thing.
No.
It's great for mental health,
Also,
or can be, so long as you don't do it too much. Anyways.
it's not unique to just our 21st century.
Right.
People like for centuries
Mm-hmm.
been, entertaining themselves and transporting themselves into different.
Yeah, we've been
Um,
writing fantasy stories since Aristotle was alive.
Well, it
So-
was more. It was not really fantasy fiction. You mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, fiction, escapism is, in a way, kind of a fantasy because you're fantasizing about not living your current life.
I
in a
think
way.
you can just say fiction. Fantasy includes magic and stuff. I feel like.
That's fair. I suppose in this specific case, it would be easy to cross the wires. Yeah. All right. Fair.
Yeah, but also Aristotle is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, Greek philosophers literally are the people who defined everything in our world. They
absolutely
just did everything. Art, science. Well, philosophy is the root of all thought.
Right.
So
yeah.
that makes sense
Yeah, we wouldn't have science if they hadn't started with philosophy.
with thought.
Yep.
Yeah.
Philosophy, it's the art of asking why, basically.
Yeah, it's the
So-
thoughts that matter. So it makes sense, but still, it's just kind of funny. Every time we start a new episode, it's, well, Aristotle or Hippocrates
Mhm.
did this, and here we are.
Yep. Hey guys, guess what? Aristotle's back.
Well, last time it was Hippocrates, I believe.
True.
Which Aristotle was the student of Hippocrates, or vice versa.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But they were close enough where it's one was a teacher of another and then another was teacher of another. So
Mhm.
three famous ancient Greek philosophers
Yeah.
lived within the same 110 years
Right.
to teach each other, which is a lot. And yeah, I think he came up with three major genres, which is play.
Play.
Well, like theater.
Right, yeah.
Play, then comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and then tragedy, I believe.
Right.
I think they came up with those three genres because they were very separate from everything. You can
Mm-hmm.
include comedy in, or romance in both comedy and tragedy and play.
Right.
So it's not a unique genre.
That's
But
fair.
you cannot make tragedy comedic. I mean, you can.
Yeah.
Okay, you can. But
Absolutely,
we're talking
but-
about the clean cut genre, not the subgenres.
Right. Which back then they were very distinct. They weren't
Yeah.
muddling things
How
up.
how they said that the lingo, the how you grammatically structure the presentation of a story
Mm-hmm.
defines the genre. So you will not use the same grammatical constructs that you would use in a comedy
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be written differently.
if you used it in like
Or spoken
tragedy.
differently, yeah.
Yes, so it would have a different tone, it would have different words, it would have basically everything, it will be different.
Yeah, because comedies, they were very deliberately written to have a bunch of levity. And, like, make people laugh, make people
Yeah.
think it was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the subgenre of if mixing tragedy and comedy would be dark comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right. Which,
Because then you would be infusing comedy with some dark topics.
right.
Take any stand-up comedians right now, for example.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of dark
There's
humor.
a lot of dark humor, which is has its own audience
Yeah.
and its own appreciation. The same, like, comedy is such a broad genre with so many different subgenres.
Mm-hmm.
I personally love stand-up comedy,
I do too. It's great.
so I do watch a lot of it on Netflix.
Yeah.
But of course I have my preferences too.
Right.
There's some topics I prefer not that I'm judgmental, it's just I don't find funny.
Right.
And if I'm watching or listening to comedy more than watching it, I like to hear jokes that I can laugh at.
Right. That's the
'Cause
point.
clearly I'm watching comedy for a reason, especially stand-up comedy. It's not like a movie.
Mm-hmm. You're there to laugh at jokes.
I'm there to laugh at jokes, and if I
Yeah.
don't like the jokes or the topic of the jokes, I move on and find another.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been asked by someone what my favorite genre of movies are,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not know what to answer.
Huh.
I don't watch enough movies to have a favorite genre.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
I don't-
Not entirely
Go figure. I didn't realize that I don't watch enough movies to have a favorite genre.
Hmm.
What about you?
Sci-fi. I was gonna say I don't think I do either, but I absolutely do. It's sci-fi. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I love space. I love big explosions in space.
I saw neither of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars, Star Trek, fantasy, Lord of the Rings.
See, now that one still surprises me.
Lord of the Rings? Oh, I
Yeah.
like fantasy, but I like to read it. Well, I
Yeah.
like to watch it too, I suppose. Just not. I read more than I watch anything, so.
Yeah. I'm more surprised that you haven't read Lord of the Rings than I am surprised you haven't watched the movies.
I don't know. It never came around.
Huh. Interesting.
To redeem myself in our listeners' ears and eyes, I suppose, if you're watching us on YouTube, I did read and watch Harry Potter,
Right? As did I. So,
but I'm a bigger fan of Harry Potter than you are.
oh, you absolutely are.
Yes,
That's not even an
I
argument.
love Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, my favorite genre of literature that I read, which I would not even call literature, is fun fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I love fun fiction.
She's big into fan fiction.
It's interesting because I had a conversation with my cousin the other day, literally I think a week ago or a week and a half ago, and I shall say that I discovered why we go back to fun fiction.
Yeah.
Because I love my books in
Right.
general, not outside of fun fiction too. Like, I read like crazy. I can read like 2 books a day
Mm-hmm.
if I'm committed.
Right. That's a lot.
and if I'm procrastinating enough on my work duties.
Like,
Which
I'm a fast reader, but I don't even approach that.
Yeah,
So.
like I read crazy fast. I'm not trying to brag, by the way. It's just like
Mhm.
I read a lot, so books, I go through a lot of books.
Yeah.
And I realized why I prefer fan fiction and why people go back to fan fiction.
I'm
It's
curious.
because of comfort.
Mm,
Fan fiction, for people who don't know, maybe I will open a whole new door of entertainment for you, which is great, is when someone or you yourself writes a story based on a work of literature or film that already exists.
right.
You utilizing the world or characters, the world or and characters
Mm-hmm.
of that already existing story. Obviously, you cannot claim any ownership of anything or make any monetary value out of it, because the stories, the original story, the characters or the world are not yours, so you cannot
Right.
claim anything.
Interesting point to that, actually. I'm pretty sure there are cases where people have worked out legal agreements with the trademark holders to be able to publish monetarily fan
Yeah,
fiction.
but we're talking about exclusions to the rule.
Yeah,
You
true.
cannot, if you do not have agreements,
Yeah.
you cannot claim.
Right. Like, you're not going to put up a pay me link to your
No.
random
You
webcomic based on Harry
you
Potter.
cannot legally make money off fanfiction. So you cannot
Right.
publish it on self-publishing websites,
Mm.
like self-published books. You cannot do that. You can only publish it for your own and other people's entertainment only.
Right.
Like, I just want to highlight, no one is making money on those
Right.
works. It's purely fans or people who really like something and take an opportunity to write their own story of or how they would want the story to end, continue, change, utilize loopholes and whatever creative geniuses can come up with, and write in their own way
Right.
or their own story.
Hmm.
For example, did you know that 50 Shades of Grey was originally fan fiction on Twilight? I told you that.
Yeah.
So, but if
Did you know?
yeah, you, our favorite listeners, did you know that that's the case?
Right.
It's very famous to know. Known. You can actually Google that.
Mhm.
It's not a secret.
It blew my mind when you first told me, though.
Yeah, it's I think, but again, the author of 50 Shades of Grey cannot monetize on Twilight.
Right.
She had to change everything, scrape the names, the connections to Twilight,
Yeah.
if she wanted to publish that book.
Yeah, it was sanitized
Yeah,
of any kind of
yep.
mention. Yeah,
So
that's fair.
obviously, Anastasia was Bella, and Edward was Christian Grey, and she had to swap all the names and change them. So,
Right.
but if you look closely, you can see the resemblance, because obviously, Anastasia and her father are close. He's a police officer. Her mother is divorced and married another
Mm-hmm.
in her like fourth or whatever marriage. So
Yeah.
you see the resemblance, and again, the other side has mother, father, sister, brother. It's just like it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it was rewritten to, scrape all the mentions of Twilight or even like remote resemblance, because obviously you cannot claim that a single father with a daughter and divorced parents is like only Twilight.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like,
you don't have a
it's
monopoly
ridiculous.
on that. for
But
sure.
if you know, then you can
Yeah.
start drawing parallels to the story. So yeah, that's the most. Another thing is, if we're talking about even older, you can call fan fiction is. Do you know, Gone with the Wind?
I've heard of it. I have never read. Did I read it?
There's a movie and there is
Movie's
a
Mel
book,
Gibson.
obviously. So the book was written by Margaret Mitchell.
They might have had us read that in school at some point. I
Yeah.
don't
So
remember.
Margaret Mitchell wrote 2 books,
Mhm.
which are called Gone with the Wind. There's part 1 and part 2, and then Ripley. What's her name? I forgot her name, but her last name is Ripley, I believe.
Mhm.
I will actually double check because I don't want to lie to you guys.
Fair enough.
Um,
Gone with the Wind. Trying to remember if I've ever read that. I have vague recollection of having read that. But I might have watched the movie. Which I think had Mel Gibson in it, but maybe I'm wrong. I think of something else. I don't recall. Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind.
it's an old movie. It's an old movie.
Oh, I'm thinking of something entirely different. That's Clark Gable, not Mel Gibson. Holy crap.
Oh, damn it. Why can't I find it?
What was I thinking? Yeah. Okay.
So basically, Scarlet was written as a continuation of Gone with the Wind, but it was written by someone else,
Gotcha. Interesting.
which would be considered fan fiction because it's another person
Mm-hmm.
using the world and the characters of another author.
Right. So this was another person making an unrelated story
No,
using the
no,
name?
no, no, no. It's with
It's a
the same.
continuation.
It's a continuation with the same characters.
Did it have the blessing of the original author?
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea.
Huh. So I've heard of instances of, say, like an author's making a really famous series that's
Nope,
gone on
nope,
forever and
nope.
they have an apprentice.
I mean, okay. Let me see. Yep, it was Alexander Ripley. I knew it. I knew it. It was Ripley. So
Okay.
Alexander Ripley wrote the story in 1991. The original Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell was written in 1936.
Okay, so there's likely no relation between the two.
Nope. So I would call it the earliest fan fiction.
Interesting.
Because
Alright.
that's the definition, a fan or another person taking someone else's characters and the world and running with it in whatever way they wished to. And she wrote a continuation of it.
Interesting.
I read both. I read Gone with the Wind and Scarlet by Alexander Ripley. So I know what I'm talking about. I actually prefer Scarlet by Alexander Ripley than
Interesting.
Gone with the Wind.
Huh.
To be completely honest.
Yeah? How so? Or why, I guess is the
Well, because I find Scarlet in the original story to be a very static character. There is not much character growth. I did not find much of character growth there.
Gotcha.
So the situation and the world around her changes. People around her change, but she's not changing much.
Fair enough.
I did not notice much change in her behavior or her ambition or her drive. What she was driven by.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But
I can see why.
in Scarlet by Alexander Ripley, she got so much better.
Gotcha. That's fair.
Her character growth went from like 5 to like 90. 5.
Right on. Yeah, that sounds way more enjoyable then.
Yeah. I suppose I like when main characters are good characters. I cannot say that about Scarlet.
Right.
I don't think anyone can really say that Scarlet is a truly good person. I think
enough.
you will need to watch a movie, at least 2, not even the book, but the movie,
Right.
to know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I've determined at this point I have not read
Yeah.
or watched it. So.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Scarlet is not particularly bad character, but for example, again, it's been out for a while, so if I'm throwing any spoilers of what you don't know,
sorry, but
I mean, listen, it's been on since 1990s.
yeah, I don't
And the
think
book's
there's.
been since 1936. If I'm giving spoilers, well, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
here are the spoilers.
That's on you.
Basically, I'm not. I don't think you're gonna watch it or read it. To be completely honest.
Probably won't.
So even if I spoil it, I'm sure you'll cope with it.
Yeah.
So basically, for example, there is another main character. His name is, and I forgot. How embarrassing. Oh my God! Why did I forget? For some reason, I'm just thinking about Timothy Dalton, who played in Scarlet. And in the continuation, I love Timothy Dalton. He also played in Jane Eyre. which is another favorite of mine. I read both the book and watched the movies, 2 of them.
Huh. Fair.
What? I like that kind of literature. That's my romance that I can actually like cope with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that.
1900s or 19th century just does it for me.
Hmm.
I mean, 19th century.
1800s.
That's 1800s, yes.
Yeah.
Queen Victoria time, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, there's a male character and Scarlet, right?
Right.
And so Scarlet, since childhood, loved Mr. Elliot. I'm sure I'm butchering the name, so I'm so sorry. I just forgot. So let's call them aliases, okay?
Right. Yeah. There we go.
So Scarlet loves Mr. Elliot. He gets married to another girl, another woman, and she, well, kind of like, no, I love you, don't leave me, blah blah blah. But then the war comes, and her family loses everything because they live in the South,
Right.
and South did not win in the Civil War.
Mm-hmm. Newsflash, they lost.
And so she builds a business and then gets married to that main male character, who's also a character not particularly good, but he's quirky and charismatic enough for you to like him.
Right.
I mean, he's an enjoyable character. I don't know if he's a good human per se.
Gotcha.
Like,
fair enough.
I enjoy reading about him. I don't know if I would want him. I would want him as a husband the more I read, but in the beginning, he's entertaining. That's all I can say. And so later they get married. She's a little, what would be the right word? Opinionated, and very, like, I'm opinionated, but I can be polite about it.
Right.
She will throw a tantrum. Not like a kid, but like an adult tantrum.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit. She likes to throw scandals around, okay? She likes to engage in fights.
Gotcha.
And so then they had a daughter together, and the daughter unfortunately passed in a horse riding accident, and she blamed her husband.
Ooh.
So the entire time, she loved one man who did absolutely nothing for her. She lost money because of him, because she decided to employ him and give him a job when he was like failing. Then she pursued him after his wife died during childbirth, still trying to pursue him.
Jeez.
Like, blamed her husband for everything. Never really appreciated him enough. And he became like really caring of her and her child, and he was like heartbroken over. I mean, I'm not saying that she was not heartbroken after the death of their daughter, but I could sympathize with him more than I could with her.
Right.
Which says a lot, okay? And obviously he left her, and she's like, don't ever show your face in front of me ever again. It sounds more dramatic. It was a little bit more coherent throughout the story, but still, the character growth was very minimal, if any, really.
Gotcha. Huh.
So yeah, it was not my favorite.
Fair. Yeah, that sounds a little disappointing in a way, I guess.
I wonder what was the thought process behind writing that book.
Yeah. What headspace was the author in?
You clearly cannot call it like comedy. It's not comedy. It's very much dramatic. Romance is very loose in that. I want to call it romance, but I feel like both of the main characters are not healthy for each other.
Right.
I mean, I actually do like Scarlett for her. I don't like her in romantic relationship, but I do admire her as a human for being for surviving through so much. She basically went from zero
Right.
to like a very wealthy woman
Yeah.
in a freaking 19th century.
Yeah, that's
19th,
impressive.
18th century. When was Civil War?
Oh, God.
Did I just put it in? Okay, 19th century then.
1860s,
So yeah,
I
19th
think.
century. That's correct.
I don't remember specifically, but I think 1800s
So
for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
so 19th century. So yeah, in 19th century, she as a woman, as a single woman at that time, she wasn't married yet.
Right.
Oh no, she was. She did marry, but then her husband died in war. So she was married multiple times, by the way. She built her business, and she became super wealthy. But and I don't know if you know, maybe you are familiar with the phrase, "I'll think about it tomorrow." She's very famous for saying that line, and she's been quoted for
I
it.
have heard that before.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I'll think about it tomorrow.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep, she's quoted because that's one of the major lines and major themes throughout the books.
Right on.
Because every
Interesting.
time something like a crisis overcomes, she's like, "I'll think about it tomorrow."
Good way to be.
Unless you're procrastinating.
Yeah, I mean, you actually have to commit to it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if there's something that needs to be thought about now, you
I
can't put
think
it back.
I think how she presents it is not necessarily that she's procrastinating or gonna do it. I think it's in the terms of I'm gonna be worried about it tomorrow, which is never, because tomorrow never comes.
So a bad way to be then, in a way.
No. In terms of that, the problems are so unsolvable. Like you have no control over
Okay,
what's happening.
I get where you're
Like
coming
the
from.
war is out of her control. The
Right.
deaths are out of her control.
Okay, that makes
Like
more
the
sense then.
problems that are coming her way are mostly out of her way, out of her power to
Yeah, they're
deal
not
with them.
her problems to deal with, in a way. I mean,
In a
obviously,
way,
you have
obviously she still has to deal with it, and she does. It's just more so a way of like, I'm overwhelmed.
to.
I will think about it tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes, and well, which is today,
Right.
and then here we are, and she's with a fresh mind, getting back into. I don't know. We spent a lot of time talking about Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, we really did.
Well, it's an interesting story. It's a very unique story because the characters are not. I would not call them good.
Right.
And usually in romantic dramas, the characters are good.
Yeah.
The only good, really, really good character that I found there was the woman who died, the wife of the man that she loved.
Huh.
Her name was Melanie, and she was a truly good human,
Yeah.
like just good human.
Fair enough.
She was the one who loved Scarlett. She's the one who volunteered in hospitals. She's the one who made all the friends and connections. So she was just a genuinely good human being.
Right. Properly nice person.
Yeah, properly nice, proper woman.
Right.
The one that you want to be,
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want a mix of like goodness from Melanie and the strong character from Scarlett. That would be a best combination.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah, which I don't possess.
Huh. Fair enough. Yeah, we did spend a lot of time talking about that one. I think you were trying to make a point about fan fictions, and then we went off on
Oh
that
yeah,
tangent.
fan fiction, right?
How it's a comfort thing. I
Oh
think
yeah,
you
it's
said?
thank you. I totally forgot where I was going through the but yeah, it's a comfort thing because when you go into fan fiction, you already know half the story. Maybe not the story itself, but you already know what world is gonna be, what the background will be,
Right.
what the characters are also gonna be.
You don't have to spend the whole time learning new things.
Exactly, because when you're getting into a new book, it's always a little bit stressful but like thrilling in a good and a bad way, because you don't know, you're getting accustomed to the characters, to the world, and then you don't know who the characters are, so you cannot know what their what are they driven by,
Right.
what are their thoughts and reasons. Where in fan fiction you kind of already know, because you already know the characters, even if you're not using main characters. You still at least know the world, so you know
Right.
like political situations.
Yeah, or even if
or
the characters have
anything
been
really.
altered a little bit, they're still at the core generally the same person.
Yeah,
So.
because at least the backstory of the characters are gonna be very much the same. So
Right.
you know, or at least you know what might lead if the characters change. So basically, there's a familiarity of sort with the story, so less anxiety to read,
Right, that makes sense.
if that makes sense.
Huh. Yeah, that's fair.
That's why I like to read fan fiction, because I already know half of the things that are going on. So it's just a new story that is told about the characters in the world that I already know.
Right. I feel like I should get into fan fiction. So there's a lot of stories I'll go back and just reread for that sense of like comfort and familiarity.
Yeah.
And I feel like reading adaptions of them might be more interesting.
Yeah, especially
So,
like that's why we go back to our favorite shows
right,
and
yeah.
rewatch them and rewatch them, the movies and the shows, because we know it's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't you be interested in watching, for example, Martian?
Mm-hmm.
Slightly different.
Yeah,
Maybe two people stayed on Mars
right.
and not one.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
What would they do?
Right.
If you haven't watched Martian with Matt Damon, highly recommend.
Mhm.
Gorgeous movie. There's a book also.
Absolutely read the book too.
So the book is also very, very good.
Yeah. Have you read it?
No, but my mom did. My mom
Right.
finished it like a week ago. She started Hail Mary.
Fair. Ooh.
I know.
I want you to read that. So
I really
bad.
want to see what she thinks about it, and then I'm gonna maybe pick it up.
Heh,
Again, it's really hard for me to start something new.
that's fair. I loved that book.
I don't doubt that. It sounds phenomenal from what the little summary of it was.
For what it's worth, I loved The Martian too. And the movie was great in its own regards.
Well, actually, my mom been telling me that there are a lot of details that they bypassed, especially like his journey from the
Yeah.
camp to the site where he was gonna be picked up.
Yep.
I mean, launched. Like I think it took 2 months, 3
Mhm.
months, or like months of travel.
Right.
And how he almost got into the sandstorm and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, it was. I
Think-
will definitely read that story because
What was there was
Very
a
smart.
there was a significant part that they just almost entirely cut out.
I
That
don't know because I haven't read it.
Right.
Do
Fair.
not spoil it for me.
Yeah. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I think if I remember correctly, he keeps a journal, and the journal's like really witty and fun to read,
Oh.
and they just don't touch on it at all in the movie.
Well, maybe because it doesn't hold any significance.
Yeah, it does. It's not really a film appropriate plot, I guess. Plot
Yeah,
device.
I mean, also, no matter how much you want to include in the movie is only max 2 hours.
Yeah, it didn't ruin the movie by any means having it not be there, but it was just a little minor disappointment.
I suppose we can look at it as anime based on manga.
Mm-hmm.
They
That's
make
fair.
anime to, invite you,
Right.
like tickle your interest enough where you go back and read manga. Manga
Yeah.
is a Japanese comic.
Yeah.
By the way,
Pretty much.
if someone does not know,
Yeah.
that's the basic explanation that I can give.
I mean,
Everyone-
it's
everyone-
basically right. Yeah.
Everyone knows what comic is. Comic.
Yeah.
So
Some
Japanese
diehard
comic.
purist might be mad at you for calling it that, but like to
okay.
get the point across, it's
What else
absolutely
would you
accurate.
call it for general audience who does not know what manga
I-
is?
I have no idea. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying.
No, I'm actually curious. I'm just genuinely curious because
Huh.
if there is a better way to explain it, I want to learn.
Graphic novel, I think, is what I've seen being tossed around. Actually.
Well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay.
That's
I suppose
that's not really different than a comic.
graphic novel would be also a little bit confusing if people don't know anything about the genre. But comic is so widespread, especially here in America.
Right. If you're trying to just get the basic point across, like
It's
that's a
just
perfectly fine way to.
Japanese graphic novel / comic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Yep. Fair enough.
I'm not trying to offend people who read it or love it. I'm just trying to get my point across. And this is the closest I know in terms of a definition for people who don't know what it is,
Right.
which has also plenty of genres.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh, I love genres of stuff.
It's always fun finding a good new one that you enjoy.
What do you say is the most underrated genre?
That's a tough one since I don't read nearly as much as you. I feel like
Well, in general, like anime, movies, books, manga, anything. Lead RPG.
That's actually where my brain just went.
High five.
Yeah.
Okay,
I love me a lit RPG.
you explain what lead RPG is.
So a literary RPG. So think of a video game or a tabletop like board game, Dungeons and Dragons, for example. It's a role-playing game. You're playing the role of a character going on likely adventures in a fantasy world. So a lit RPG is taking elements from that and putting them in a literary kind of setting.
Yeah.
So, and not just like the adventure, because obviously adventure books already exist, but it's like taking statistics or player character sheets, weapon stats, that kind of thing, or like having a system interface.
Usually, always, no matter where the main character is, whether they're in game, outside of the game, using the game equipment to be in game, or transported into the game setting, they will always have status window.
Right.
with no exception. There will be some kind of inventory, sometimes map, sometimes not. It really depends. Always inventory and stats.
Yep.
At all times. That is the definition of lit RPG, basically.
Yeah.
Like where one or multiple characters are able to see their own stats. Stats being statistics, being the summary of the character.
Oftentimes, other bits of it are gamified too, so you'll have like loot drops instead of like instead of you kill a monster, you cut its hide off. It's you kill a monster, it explodes into a puff of smoke, and there's a little bag with all its goodies in it.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's an underrated genre.
I think so too. It's a fairly new genre.
Yeah, because obviously, like, game immersion is very, very young.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, to be fair, isn't, but that's like that alone existing forever doesn't shock me that it didn't get turned into its own book genre. So.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of fantasy might be based or loosely includes Dungeons and Dragons.
They it's kind of a chicken and the egg problem. It's
yeah,
like,
what came first?
I'm pretty sure
I feel like fantasy novels came first.
Yeah, like Tolkien, Lord of the Rings type stuff.
And then the Dungeons and Dragons came around, which by the way I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, but it's been around enough where if you're in a fantasy, sci-fi, anime, fun fiction, lit RPG world, you kind of know whether you want it or not.
I bet you'd have fun with Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't want to even get into it.
No? Fair. Huh.
Not anymore.
No? Fair enough.
I feel like Dungeons and Dragons require a lot of like role playing.
It doesn't necessarily. I played in a campaign, it didn't last very long, but we didn't all have to heavily get into role playing, really. Like we did a bit, but it wasn't like, changing your voice and talking weird and that kind of thing. So
still.
It's entirely up to the group.
It includes more than one person to hang out. I'm not about crowds.
That's fair.
2 or more people is a crowd for me.
Fair enough.
I get overwhelmed by social interactions.
Yeah.
You, as my coworker, knows very well. Aleister is very patient with me when I'm in a bad mood. Thank you.
I try to be.
And forgive me for my shortcomings. Yeah. I don't know. I would also say maybe another genre that might be underrated is slice of life.
Yeah.
Like every day.
Outside of Japan, anyways.
Yeah. I feel like it's very much underrated because it's so calming.
Right.
It's the stories that you kind of want in your life. Maybe it's a story about, I don't know. There's a book genre in the language I speak outside of English, where they have it's slice of life. It's just called differently.
Gotcha.
It's basically where a person. It's part of fantasy, by the way, where a person is in another world or somehow transported. Isekai,
right? Yeah.
Japanese term for anything outside of our world. And basically, the entire story revolves around them building a life in that world.
Interesting.
And I'm not talking about adventure. I'm talking about settling down.
Right, yeah.
Or somehow better in the world. For example, they got into medieval ages, right? And they introduced hygiene. Which was a big problem back then.
Right.
They did not know what hygiene was. Well, obviously they know that if they don't clean, they start smelling bad. But outside of that, they did not know the repercussions of what would happen if you don't clean yourself.
Right.
Thus, all the diseases and infections and stuff.
I feel like that's starting to become more popular in anime and manga too.
Yeah, because it's a common genre.
Yeah.
And it's very underrated because I am very interested in world building or personal life building.
Right.
In any sense of the word. In any sense of the word. And world, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it's just, I feel like it's underrated because a lot of people are not familiar with the genre to begin with. So some people just, if you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. It's interesting you mentioned isekai. That's often a common component of lit RPGs too.
That's true.
Well, so not always. It's not a requirement, but it's common.
Well, Soul Leveling does not have isekai.
True.
And it's very much a lit RPG.
Well, that one's kind of the opposite isekai, where instead of you going to the fantasy world, the
Which does
fantasy world
not
comes to
then
you.
identify as
True,
isekai.
yeah.
Because isekai meaning you traveling to another world, not
Right.
world traveling to you.
That's fair.
That's different. That's
Yeah.
just fantasy lit RPG.
Right.
Which, by the way, Soul Leveling is great.
Oh yeah.
It's
awesome.
a light novel, Korean light novel. It's a manhwa, which is just Korean way to say manga, which is in turn graphic novel.
Yep.
That is now turned into anime. I think it's still coming out. I haven't seen.
Yeah, it's still
Unless-
airing. I think it's on like
you
6
tell
or
me
7.
when it's finished, because I don't wanna start. I already watched the first episode, but only because I was really curious how they're gonna introduce the characters
Right. Yeah.
and where they're gonna start from.
Yeah, I'm keeping track of when it fully airs because I want to watch it all in one go too. So
Yeah, I mean it's anime. The episodes are 15 minutes long.
yeah, it would be kind of a slog to just do it once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm watching a show right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's called Please Marry My Husband. I think
Oh,
I told you about it.
You've
Yeah,
told me about this
it's
one,
a
yeah.
Korean show. Unfortunately, it's not on Netflix yet. I'm sure it will be because it's so popular right now.
Right.
And it's based on manhwa, actually. There's
Right.
a manhwa of it. I told you about it.
Mm-hmm.
What would you define that genre? What would you define the genre of that thing? It's romance first. It's drama for sure.
If you take out the weird supernatural situation of her going back in time, it is. You might laugh at me for this, but it really seems like a soap opera.
Really?
Yeah.
Which
That's
is
the
genre
vibe I got.
and it's on its own.
Yeah.
Well, how would you define soap opera?
That is a tough one. I don't really have a good definition of that.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna Google that.
Yeah, my mother used to watch those a ton, and I would always leave the room because I hated them.
Oh, I also watched a lot of soap operas.
That doesn't shock me.
What?
I don't know, but I don't have a decent definition, but that's kind of the vibe I get from it. It's just like, it seems like a lot of drama. That kind of, maybe that's the characteristic I would give it, is it's soap operas seem like they are just riddled with drama.
Okay. So soap opera, according to Merriam-Webster definition, is a serial drama performed originally on a daytime radio or television program, and chiefly characterized by tangled interpersonal situations and melodramatic or sentimental treatment.
So I pretty much know it.
Pretty much, yeah.
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 That's the vibe I get from that.
To be completely honest, I feel like it's a bit too violent for my perception of what soap opera is. I feel like soap opera is where, like, no, she's your long lost sister. Don't marry her. No.
Right.
And then it turns out like the father is actually like a brother of this person, and they're been lost, and there you have. It's like it really. Every time I hear soap opera, I think of Turkish shows because that's what they aired a lot on TV when I was a
Interesting.
child, and so or some kind of like Turkish or some other show, and it's been long, like Santa Barbara, for example. I don't know if you remember, it's on Santa Barbara, California.
No.
It went on forever, like forever. I don't even know how many episodes, over 100 for sure.
The only soap opera I even remember the name of is General Hospital.
I have not seen that one.
Fair enough.
Santa Barbara show.
What a funny thing I never expected to remember again in my life. Now it's come up. That's funny.
Okay, Santa Barbara aired from 1984 to 1993.
That's a decent run.
Right?
Yeah.
And there are,
Is that only one season a year?
I don't know, there's 10 seasons.
So pretty much.
Yeah.
Huh.
I don't know how many episodes were there, though. Number...
Probably 20-something episode seasons, I would guess. 24, I think, is the general number.
In anime, yeah.
I feel like it goes the same way for TV.
Oh my god, 2,137.
I'm sorry, what?
1,137. Certainly more than 24 a year.
That's like a year-long, 10-year run. What the?
Exactly. It went for 10 years.
365 days in a year. So that comes out to like
An episode a day almost.
an episode every 3 days or so. 3 to 4. Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I am telling you, it was really, really long.
So they must have been 3 seasons on, 1 season off, I bet. That sounds right.
I don't know.
I think that's how that math would work out. More or less. Wow. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, and obviously in Please Marry My Husband, there's no traditional family drama. There's obviously family drama, but
Yeah, there's that twist to it.
but it's not like father, mother, sister, brother kind of. Well, a little bit. You know what? I concede. You're right. It is a soap opera in a sense.
Fair
It's
enough.
a drama soap opera with a twist of supernatural because they travel in time.
Right.
So, by the way, highly
Yeah.
recommend. It's not finished next week, Monday and Tuesday. Gonna be the last 2 episodes. I
Wow.
cannot wait to finish it. It's been so exciting.
I'm curious to hear how it ends.
I know. You'll hear all about it. I tell him everything. Obviously, I have to do something at work, right?
Yeah, can't have it be work or anything.
Well, I was just gonna say, don't worry, guys. I actually do work, but sometimes I have a plateau time where there's
Yeah.
nothing.
Everyone's got downtime.
Yeah,
No.
sometimes there's just not much to do, and I go bother Aleister. 'Cause
Mhm.
obviously he has nothing to do too. He always have something to do. It's just
Not time sensitive usually.
yeah. So he can spare a couple of hours.
Couple of
Talking
hours a
to me.
day.
How long did we talk today at work with everyone stopping by?
The whole day. I was in there from like I think 9 until 4.
Yeah, basically the whole day.
Yeah. To be fair, I helped with that thing.
Yeah, we actually did do work, but in
Yeah.
the meantime we were also working, and then it's Friday today, right?
Yep.
So ton of meetings and stuff.
Mhm.
So
Yep. And everyone's in the office because everyone has to come in on Fridays. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
yeah,
it was nice to see so many people.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what else did you learn about genres?
Going back to when we were talking about Aristotle.
Oh, please.
Not
Let's
specifically
go back
about
to our roots.
yeah, yeah. Not specifically about him, but like about the genres. You said he came up with comedy, right?
Which
like he
is a
defined-
history genre. Us talking about Aristotle is a history genre right now because it's very much about ancient
It kind of is, yeah.
history.
True.
Okay, please
Yes,
go on.
anyway.
Sorry.
Comedy. Did you know that back then, back in
Ancient
300
times.
BCE, whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
comedy was actually used as a form of political discourse.
Yeah, it still is.
Is it?
Yeah. Have you never seen stand-up comedy?
I mean, I guess more in terms of it was the official form of political discourse.
Well, I suppose it's like what's that person who would be by the king?
The jester.
The jester.
Yeah.
It's like the jester.
Interesting.
Like everyone, he had almost political. I just had a word, and I forgot it, and it was replaced by political asylum, which is not a thing. Political immunity to say things about the ruler
Right.
and the government, and have a carte blanche
Mm-hmm.
to say whatever.
That's fair.
So I could see why
Yeah.
it was
This was more so like during elections or whatever they were back then. It was
I don't
the
know. It was
the-
not democratic.
yeah. Well, I mean, it kind yeah. I don't know my history well enough to.
Neither do I,
Yeah.
to be completely honest.
Anyway, the candidates, the opposing people, whatever, they would do these comedy bits where they took digs at each other, and whoever was better at it ended up being the one who won the election, whatever you want to call
You
it.
know what? I really like that.
In a way, yeah.
I really like that idea.
Mhm.
It's very non-aggressive.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you cannot even call it passive aggressive because they're obviously taking digs at each other, but they're not being passive aggressive about it. They're
Right.
clearly like in a funny fashion.
Yeah, but also
It's like-
directly and honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you cannot be like, "Are you insulting me right now?" And you don't know, like they clearly insulted you.
Why, yes, sir, I am. That's the whole point.
Exactly, and it's comedy, which
Mhm.
I mean, what a great way to hold a debate or disagreement.
Right. Yeah.
Also, I feel like it doesn't even ruin your. I mean, I suppose it depends how they. How in what way they actually did deliver the jokes.
Right.
Was it against their character? Then it could be quite uncomfortable for the person to hear. But if they did it more ethical, I'm putting quotation because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what ethics they followed back then, how they
Right.
followed that a comedic debate / politic approach.
Mhm.
But if they didn't imply more of like personal digs,
Right.
I think it's a great way because how often do you get mad or stay mad when you're laughing?
Not. Yeah.
Not
it's
very
hard to-
often. It's really hard to take something
Mhm. When you're
truly
properly laughing.
truly offensive in truly offensive way when it's done
Mhm.
through joke. Again, as long as jokes are not
Yeah.
like really cruel.
Yeah. Cruel, super distasteful. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah. At someone's expense.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's fair.
Actually, that's a strategy that psychologists recommend, that if you encounter a bully, laugh at them.
Oh yeah.
People cannot handle other people laughing at them,
Mm-hmm.
especially the ones who seek power over another human,
Right.
like the bullies do. Bullying is basically someone trying to show their power over
Mm-hmm.
the person.
Yeah.
And
that's for
people
sure.
like that have very fragile egos,
Mm-hmm.
typically, because they cannot handle someone who they perceive as weaker being stronger than them.
Right.
So if that someone weaker laughs at them, it's embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got to be careful with that because that could backfire and end up with them just being mad. And,
Yeah, obviously, but I'm
It's still a
it's a
decent-
tactic. Obviously, like laugh and go, like run.
Yeah. Like, generally speaking, the better tactic is to just not react at all. But
I suppose laugh at them in a public setting where
Mhm.
they cannot exercise any physical.
yeah, that doesn't stop them from cornering you later, though.
Yeah, but at least if something happens to you,
Mm-hmm.
the suspect will be clear.
Right. Yeah, someone will know.
Also, we're like going down into the true crime subgenre that I personally absolutely love and adore.
Yeah.
Which, did you know that a lot of people view true crime worse than horror? You, I think, view it that way. My mom does too, and my best friend does as well.
I don't know if I do. Now that I kind of understand, like, why you're into it and whatnot, I don't think I do anyways.
Oh, you understand why I'm into it?
Vaguely.
Well, do tell. I'm curious to know what you think my
Well,
interest in it lies.
Don't put me on the spot like that.
Well, no, I don't. I'm not waiting for the right answer. There's no right answer. Well, there is, but
right.
I'm not expecting you to say anything bad or good or any. Really, I'm just curious to hear your thought process in a sense.
Well, I know why you like it more than horror anyways, which
Well,
is a lot of the
yeah.
whole, like, it's not terrifying in the sense that it's not supernatural, it's not jump scary. Most of the time, whoever perpetuated the thing's been caught, that type of deal.
Yeah, but
So-
also it's not intended to scare you.
Right, yeah, that's the other
It's
part.
it's intended mostly for educational purposes.
yeah, it's a knowledge thing.
Okay, it is intended for entertainment purposes because I listen it for entertainment,
Mhm.
but not in the way that horror movie is presented.
Right, yeah.
Horror movie is presented to evoke like adrenaline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or some
Probably
sense
you.
of fight or flight. Or
Yeah,
something.
whereas true crime is not gonna do that for you. It's just
Yeah.
delivering facts and stuff.
Yeah, it's there to pique your interest
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't see you listening to a lot of true crime though.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a stretch
I
for me.
think you get enough from me telling you gruesome details about cases.
That's fair, yeah.
Because I'm like, oh my god, did you hear about XYZ? I'm also not gonna be talking about it on here because that's
It's
true
not the
crime is
vibe.
its own interest, and I would not want to subject anyone who does not want to be subjected to true crime. Because I know,
Right.
for example, my mom absolutely does not like talking about true crime, thinking about it, or even like
Hmm.
having a mental image of it.
Right.
They
It's not
are
for
very
everyone.
gruesome. They
Yeah.
are. They can be very, very much so,
Hmm.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I love it. Yeah, it's my late evening kind of entertainment.
Right.
Right before I go to bed, it soothes me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How does it make sense?
It doesn't. That was
Exactly.
sarcasm. Yeah.
I figured. Sarcasm, by the way, is also an interesting genre.
True. Yeah. Sarcasm and satire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What actually, what I've learned from a psychology article that I've read randomly sometime
Mm-hmm.
back
As you
in
do.
time, because I do. I'm telling you, I don't always read fan fiction, okay?
But when she does.
But when I do, I go all out. um, I read in the psychology paper that sarcasm is actually your pent up anger
Mm-hmm.
that you're projecting to the world. So you're not being sarcastic for like fun. It's always coming from an angry place.
Yeah, usually it
And
is.
the jibs and jabs of people are usually not nice.
Mm-hmm.
You're not doing it because you're trying to be nice. There's a difference between irony and
Mm-hmm.
sarcasm.
Right.
Sarcasm is always done from bitterness and anger. For
I
example,
don't know
if
if
I
I'd say always.
always
But really.
always
Huh.
when you're not being sarcastic, you're being ironic,
Okay.
and ironic is not coming from bitterness and anger.
Okay. Because I was gonna say I've had plenty of times where I've said things sarcastically. That
Okay,
were
for
like,
example, you tell me the weather is so cold today, and I'll be like, well, of course it is. It's always freaking cold.
mm-hmm.
Imagine like if it's gonna be warm today, it's just the hell is all like frozen too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, something was like it's not coming from a good space.
Yeah.
Even the tone that you say it was probably a terrible example. I don't use sarcasm very often.
Okay.
Now rarely because I don't want to be an angry, bitter person.
Right. Now I'm starting to see it now.
Do you know one of our coworkers who moved
Mm-hmm.
is very 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 versed in sarcasm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
I'm pretty sure I
Yes.
do. Yeah.
And whenever I see like an Instagram post or something where they say, "Oh, my love language is sarcasm," I don't find it funny or cute.
Yeah.
I find it kind of red flag because
That's.
since I know what sarcasm is and where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to date someone whose love language or language is sarcasm because
Right.
I would want that to be worked through.
Yeah. That makes you wonder, do they actually know what they mean and they actually know it's sarcasm, or are they implying it's irony? And they just don't
I don't
get
know. I don't know. But if they know and they use it, then definitely don't want to hang out. If they just misuse the word sarcasm,
it. Mm-hmm.
it's like people who put it upon themselves to diagnose themselves with some kind of mental illness.
Right.
Like OCD or
Mhm.
ADHD, the most
Mm.
common ones, or bipolar or something else.
Right.
Or they call someone else like narcissistic or psychopathic or some other sort. Like it's not your place to diagnose anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Nor is it your place to diagnose yourself.
Right.
'Cause
Yeah.
I mean, you can assume or maybe think that you might have it, but unless a professional like determines that yes, you do have
Yeah.
certain thing, you cannot really be 100% sure. Just because you
Right.
have a quirk to your character doesn't mean that you suddenly have a mental. You might have trauma or
Right.
anxiety. I feel like everyone has trauma and anxiety nowadays,
Yeah.
including me and Aleister.
That's kind of a default state of
It's
being.
a default state, exactly.
Yeah.
We just are more knowledgeable about anxiety and trauma now that we were before.
Yeah.
So that is the norm, as sadly as it is. But
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I feel like it's a little not our place to diagnose or take it upon ourselves to
Right.
say
I mean, even if
things.
you're a medical professional, self-diagnosing is kind of a conflict of interest in a way.
Exactly. That's
So,
why even in medical practices, doctors are not supposed to operate on or treat their relatives or
right.
their family members because it's conflict of interest. You cannot be unbiased
Yeah.
towards it.
Need to be objective.
And imagine yourself, you're the most biased towards yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot judge yourself unbiased.
Right.
So by default, it's a conflict of interest. You're not supposed to diagnose yourself
Mm-hmm.
of
Absolutely.
anything. Where was I coming from? What was I talking about before that?
Sarcasm.
Sarcasm. Yeah. So, and I am very particular about word definitions.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. So if I don't know the word and I want to use it, I probably am going to look it up
Right.
because I want to make sure that I'm utilizing
Yeah,
and using language properly,
that's fair.
word and language properly.
Reflecting on it, I feel like a lot of my sarcasm has been irony for sure. So, yeah.
If you want, I can catch you and tell you which one is sarcasm, which is irony.
Nah, don't worry about
I
it.
mean, I feel like sarcasm used to be making angry or bitter remarks about someone or yourself,
Mm-hmm.
neither of which is healthy.
Right. That's fair. Or even just about a situation in general.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sarcastic at work all the time about just the state of work.
Yeah.
So I'll.
Which comes
absolutely.
from angry, bitter place.
It does, yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas a couple weeks ago when it was, uncharacteristically warm and I told you to stay warm outside when I left, like, that's irony.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's not sarcastic because
Yeah.
there was nothing angry or bitter about it. Like,
Mhm.
you're just like, stay warm. We always say that to each other, whether it's warm or cold nowadays, because
Yeah, it's become a bit of a joke.
it really did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that sarcasm is okay,
Mm-hmm.
but as long as you're aware
Right.
that you're doing it and you're saying words and it's coming from an angry or you want to make a not very nice dig at someone, at least you know you're aware of it.
Right.
Or you can consciously either decide or just go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, decide not to use it or go with it anyways.
Right. I feel like it can be a bit of a release in a way. Obviously, again, like, not if you're directing it at someone, that's less of a release and more just,
Don't
You
you
know.
think there should be better ways of having your release and not being passive aggressive towards someone?
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong, but
I'm
sometimes,
never wrong.
sometimes,
That's irony.
sometimes you gotta take what you can get, though. So, I don't know, like, I'll use sarcasm, like, say one of our tools at work is not working the way that it should. I'll use sarcasm for that, and I won't feel bad about it.
Well, I
It's
suppose
just
I
a
use
release.
sarcasm in
Yeah.
those cases too.
But if it's about a person, I'll generally
I
try
suppose
not
we
to.
can generalize it as long as you use sarcasm against an inanimate object or situation
Mm-hmm.
and not a person or people.
Yeah.
You're generally fine.
So long as you don't make it too big of a habit, anyways.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
constantly droning on
Try
about
not to
it.
be like passive aggressive because
Yeah.
passive aggressive is not the way to listen. I'm not being self-righteous. I'm very much passive aggressive, but I'm
Mhm.
aware of it and I'm trying to work on it.
Right.
Aleister knows that I can be very dismissive
Mhm.
according to citing directly from the source,
I did say that.
which dismissive can be passive aggressive,
Right.
and I'm working on it. But we can all agree that we can become better human beings just by acknowledging and working our shortcomings.
Right. And at
Hopefully,
the same time, I'm learning to read the cues so that you don't need to be dismissive
I
as
don't
much.
think
So
you need to like take it upon yourself and try to be a better human from my shortcomings. I think you just need to be okay. I'm like, I
Yeah.
need to work myself, not you.
fair, but I can still help work around it so that you're not finding
suppose.
yourself in that position
That is
as
very
much.
far away from genres. I think we exhausted the subject matter already.
Yeah, we might have a little bit. So
But we've been on rambling off topic for even before we even started the
right, yeah,
topic.
we started on a ramble for sure.
Anyways, guys, we'll be there and we'll see you and talk to you in the next one. And remember, be polite, respectful, and open-minded. Bye.
Bye.